Hi, this is Primary Cinema, and well, Christopher Nolan has done it again. He's just released a $225 million blockbuster that not even a global pandemic could stop, and everyone's complaining about the sound mixing. Really, the question for this video is, how the hell does this keep happening? Like I said, this isn't new territory for Nolan. Dating back to having to change Bane's voice in The Dark Knight Rises from this
Doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan.
to this.
It doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan.
Every movie he's released since has caused a stir with audiences complaining about sound issues. Interstellar was unintelligible, Dunkirk was deafening, and now Tenet, possibly the most confusing film I've seen since Primer, has large swatches of key dialogue that is difficult if not impossible to make out on first viewing. Each time this happens, cinemas are the first to get the blame, with audiences suspecting the theatre's equipment has been incorrectly calibrated. And while it's true that the modern standard for film presentation often leaves something to be desired, Nolan has even stated publicly that the mixes we hear were fully approved by him and exactly what he wanted. This has led to some cinemas preemptively assuring audience members that the fault does not lie in their projection setup. But it can't just be that Nolan is bad at sound mixing, right? Well, one argument I've seen repeated is that Nolan just doesn't care about sound as much as he does picture. That he is so preoccupied with pulling off large-scale stunts and making the most of the IMAX format that audio is simply an afterthought for him. But upon doing a lot of research, I found that just isn't true. By all accounts, Nolan is deeply involved in the sound mixing process. Collaborators say he knows exactly what he wants for a film's soundtrack. He works closely with his sound team and composer, and views the film in multiple theatre environments to make sure the mix is just to his liking. Nolan says he mixes his sound so his films can be experiential, to truly make the audience feel as if they are in the scene. Which makes sense up to a point. If a scene is set in a loud environment, it follows that the film's audio should be loud to the audience, and that dialogue will be tough to make out. He's explained he achieves this effect by treating some dialogue as if they were sound effects, intentionally mixing them beneath other sounds to emphasize how loud the surrounding noise is. But I would argue there are ways of communicating a loud environment to the audience while still keeping dialogue understandable. This scene from David Fincher's The Social Network relies on excellent sound mixing, but also great direction. The characters lean towards each other, they speak up and over-enunciate their words. The scene successfully captures the club's blaring music without sacrificing any of the dialogue's clarity. Nolan is likely influenced by his longtime inspiration Michael Mann. Mann famously used only the on-set audio for the shootout scene in Heat. The result was gunshots that are thunderously terrifying, echoing around the city streets and bombarding the audience. Take a listen. One thing you may have noticed from that clip, which Nolan has perhaps not copped, is the lack of dialogue. The roaring gunshots dominate the soundtrack. They're so loud there simply isn't any room for characters to talk, apart from yelling the occasional "go, go" or "son of a bitch." Mann has the canniness to set scenes where dialogue is required in more suitable environments, such as Heat's diner scene. What Nolan often does, probably in an effort to liven up stiff expositional dialogue, is set these tiresome conversations or setups in visually spectacular or action-packed sequences. But this only frustrates the audience, as key information is lost in the soundscape. And specifically thinking of that one sequence in Tenet on those weird sailboats as an example here. One other aspect of Nolan's filmmaking which makes work harder for his sound mixers is his devotion to Imax cameras. Imax can produce absolutely stunning visuals, no question. But one drawback to Imax is the cameras are just really, really loud. Like here, listen. Now, of course Nolan uses other cameras for scenes that require it. It's why the aspect ratio jumps around so much in his films. But he has shot dialogue-heavy scenes on IMAX cameras, leaving the crew to find ways to work around the camera's noise. This sequence from Interstellar is one example. Nolan insisted that the sound of the car burrowing through the cornfield came across in the theatre. That decision, plus the imperfect workarounds the crew had to come up with to record dialogue on set, likely contributed to the many complaints the film's mix received. The obvious solution to this problem would be to have the actors redub their lines during post-production. This practice, called ADR or looping, is common even across movies with far less difficult shooting conditions. Yet Nolan has sworn off looping just as he has green screen, using the industry-wide standard only when it is absolutely necessary. Richard King, the supervising sound editor and sound designer in Interstellar, estimated only 6 or 8 lines were redubbed across the entire film, an astonishingly low number. Put simply, Nolan's preference for production audio clashes with his love for the IMAX film format, leading to the muddled sound mixing audiences have been forced to put up with. Nolan's puritanical philosophy, refusing to shoot on digital, use green screens, or rely on ADR, is admirable, but certain conceits ought to be made for the benefit of the audience. Now, by no means am I disputing the talent of Nolan or his sound mixers. His films have, after all, been well liked by their peers, being nominated for and receiving multiple Academy and Cinema Audio Society awards. Producing high-quality mixes to the director's specifications, whilst working within the constraints laid out in this video, is an immense achievement. I just wonder if some of those limitations need be there at all, and should instead be forgoed for a better listening experience. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to Primary Cinema for more, and let me know your opinion in the comments. Are Nolan's movies too loud or just right? Thanks again.